All right, I'm going to call the June 8th, 2021 meeting of the Macon County Board of Commissioners to order. I'd like to welcome all of you in attendance. Our June meeting, in my time as a commissioner, is always one of the most important of the year because this is budget time. This is when we set the direction of Macon County government for the next year. And there's been a lot of work, especially on our finance department, that has made this happen. So I'd like to thank them. I thank the county manager for dealing with us and our various opinions here and helping our budget hopefully come to fruition tonight and pass. So again, I'd like to welcome all of you. Are there any announcements? Mr. Manager?
No, sir.
Commissioner Bill? Anybody? No? All right, we'll all rise, observe a moment of silence, and I'm going to ask our finance director, Lori Carpenter, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing for the recommended fiscal year 2021-2022 proposed budget. I don't have anyone signed up to speak. Is there anyone here that would like to address the board regarding our proposed budget? Anyone, any commissioners like to address? Silence? All right. Looks like just a general broad overview. Looked like a total appropriation of $56,681,218. We had some changes at last week's meeting with some suggested changes, including the minimal tax increase and how that money would be spent. Let me deck them up, file of papers here. So those changes from the budget.
Other piece. There it is.
Thank you. Those changes from the county manager's recommended budget are $8,490 going to the North Carolina Forest Service, a 2% COLA of which will, for all county employees, which moves up to, which will be an increase of $417,064. In addition to the implementation of the upcoming pay study plan of $644,575, an increase to the library operating fund of $30,000, a one-time donation to the Niquosi Initiative of $25,000, and $10,000 appropriated to the Cowee School for a new well, and then $904,993 it will be appropriated into contingency with the expectations that all of that will be spent towards the architectural services and implementation of a new Franklin High School. So that's about just a little over a $2 million increase over the manager's proposed budget. And are there any questions on that? Any comments? If there aren't, I'll accept the motion to approve the budget ordinance as presented, as well as the, okay, thank you. So I guess we're approving the budget ordinance and the budget, correct? Any more comments from the public? Anyone? I'll close the public hearing. Any comments from the board?
Motion to adopt the budget as presented by the county manager along with the budget resolution, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Bill, second by Commissioner Shields. Any further discussion?
I'd like to say a little bit.
Sure.
And while I do understand the slight increase in our ad valorem, we're kind of living in these unprecedented times. And, the county's anticipated to have another $7 million of COVID relief funds. The results of the pay study haven't quite, made made their appearance. We don't know exactly what we're going to have to spend. And also, we're not a brokerage firm for the county's tax dollars. If there's a need, I'm happy to fund it. I'm happy to spend it. I'm on board for the high school. I'm on board to see the high school built responsibly and effectively. And I do want to see the plan, and I appreciate this step. But I think as presented, with all due respect, I understand where it's going. That's my reason for opposition.
Okay. Can we use the COVID funds for the erection of the new high school or the hiring of the architects?
I would love to. Can we do that?
We don't know yet.
I would.
The guidance was just released, the money the county's getting, the guidance was just released about 2 weeks ago. We haven't had time to study that fully, to determine what we can or can't spend the monies on.
Well, then,
The show's on.
All right.
Ready to go?
Ready? Are you still in comment period?
Yep.
Anybody else? Well, I always got a comment. And it's an honor to serve as a county commissioner with this board, and I disagree with them a lot, but they're all personal friends. But I have two apologies to offer tonight. One's to the county manager. We charged him when we started this budget process with bringing us a flat budget. And he did a great job with Lori and his budget team. It's a great job, Derek, and I would support your budget. But when we come down to the budget session last week, like every other year, we go into a spending, not maybe a frenzy, but we go into some pet projects. And I hate to call anybody out by name, but we were talking about the funding of the Nickwassee Fund and the Cowie School. Those are charities, and I've argued the point here that in this budget, we've got $75,000 in a community funding pool that's designated to fund charities in Macon County, but yet occasionally we just off the cusp want to give $25,000 to a charity. It's either one or the other to me, and I'll always preach that. The library increase is probably appropriate, but it disregards the study that Derek done where Macon County per capita funds more than the surrounding counties, the Fontana Regional Library. And then we get into this pay study thing, and this year we're doing a pay study. We've set aside 6%, or we've set aside enough money, $1.2 million, that's included in Derek's recommended budget to fund this pay study. It'll be an average, I think, of about 6% per employee. Some will get nothing, as Lori says. Some people may get more than 6%, but I think that's a positive move. And Derek did not recommend a cost of living adjustment until the pay study comes in at the end of the summer. But I think Chairman Tate wanted to do the COLA. I have no problem with that, but it just doesn't seem, it was not recommended by the county manager. Plus, we added, that's $417,000 we've got to put in this budget for the 2% cost of living. Then we threw in another $644,000 to further fund the pay study, upping it to about $1.8 million in a reserve fund. So if you're a county employee, I'm proud of you. Hopefully, a lot of you are going to get good raises out of this thing. We've increased our contingency fund from $100,000 this year to $100,000 last year to $900,000 this year. And my second apology is to the taxpayers, because to get that $2 million, we're going to increase your property taxes 2.5 mils. Figure that out. That's 6% of your property taxes. That's the increase. You're going to have 6.75% to be exact. Increase to your property taxes. Financially, and plus that's the second. We had a budget increase in 2019 and 2020. It's in the manager's report.
We've had budget increases, we haven't had a tax increase.
We had a tax increase in 2019, 2020. It's in the budget report, in the manager's report. In 2019, 2020, we had an 18 mil increase, a 0.18 mil increase to the ad valorem tax above the revenue neutral that was required by the revaluation. So we had a 1.8 mil in 2020, We got a 2.5 mil in 2022. I get frustrated with tax increases because financially, this county is flush with money. This year and next year, the Macon County Board of Education is getting about $17 million, additional dollars off of the COVID-related fund, whatever that is. Macon County is getting, I think, $7 million from COVID relief funds. We've got $28 million in the bank in undesignated fund balance. So we're cash flush, we're flush. I see no reason that 3 members of the board want to go to the taxpayers and say, hey, we need $2 million more dollars. And that's how we're going to get it. It's increasing your taxes. 2.5 mils is a minimal increase, but it's a 6.75% overall increase in your taxes. A side note, Jackson County just reduced their millage rate to 36 after their revow. They have no countywide fire tax like we do too. So I cannot vote for the commissioner's budget this year based on the tax increases that I cannot justify. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Paul. Anyone else?
Yes, let me address some of the things that Commissioner Higdon talks about every time we have a budget. Number one, the taxes in Macon County, even with this increase, will still be one of the lowest in the state on ad valorem taxes. These are not pet projects. All these projects are important. When you're talking about the 2% COLAs for our employees, which we struggle with now. Our pay study, we've had 4 pay studies. Not one pay study been fully funded. After much discussion and thought was put into this, we decided we're going to try to fund this pay study for our employees. If we don't have employees, we don't have anything. Our employees are our county. They take care of our citizens in every way. The library asked for $53,000. And I'm not saying we shouldn't have given 53, but we did give 30. The Niquosia Initiative, if you don't know what that is, Niquosia Initiative is very important to our county in a lot of ways. Number one, it puts us working together with the town and the Eastern Band as we try to improve as we come into our county, which will always increase our tax base, whether it be in sales tax or in ad valorem tax. The Cowee School is a county-owned building. We're putting a well in our own building. We do help out with the Cowee, the Heritage Center at Cowee School, but that's for a well that has been desperately needed for a long time. So a pet project to me is we go out and buy a dog. You just ain't buying no dogs. All these are very, very important. Do I like to raise taxes? No, I voted for about 3 tax increases over the past 18 years. And they've every one been needed. If you look closely at the contingency, it's like we could not get the support to pass for a new high school, which would took about 5.5 to 6.5 cents. I guess the board felt like that we could go on with another direction. I feel that this was our opportunity to do a high school in Macon County. But we'll see. But the $904,000, I'll assure you, will go into contingency and it will be used. It was set aside especially in the motion for this tax increase, for the things that have to happen at the school as far as preparation, and that's not enough, for the architect fees and everything that goes with it for a $90 million project. As far as the fund balance goes, you hear Commissioner Higdon quote 20-some-odd million. You've got to remember that many, many years ago, no members of this board, but several, we have to have 8% fund balance in our, on hand at any time. Many, many years ago, the commissioners on this board voted that make that 25%. So you can take that number and 25% of that cannot be touched unless by the majority of this board, they're going to change that percentage. I don't see that happening anytime soon. The fund balance takes a long time to go, and it takes, it's very easy to spend. That's our seed corn. You start spending your seed corn, you're not going to have a crop. So with that, we have many other projects that need to do, and maybe this coming year we can tackle some of those. We're going to ask for the county manager to prioritize those. So these are not just things that fell out of the blue. These things that were requested of the county manager to put in his budget. He chose not to. The when the county manager makes a budget, that's just a starting point. It's up to the commissioners to come in and see what they think needs to be done. And I think the main thing we need to remember in this budget is the main reason for this small increase in taxes is to take care of our employees and to get us a fund started, hopefully for a new high school in the area that's badly needed. Since 1952, that high school has been on the ground. So, just to clarify my position to the budget and the calls I've received, most people realize they have the best deal possible when it comes to our fire departments, when it comes to our sheriff's department, our EMS, all of our employees. When you vote against the budget, you vote against everything. You don't vote against the tax increase. You vote against the sheriff's department, you vote against EMS, you vote against all the services of the county. Because without a budget, you revert back to the old budget. So, just keep that in mind too. But I appreciate you listening, and I thank you for the support. It's very wide for this small increase and what it's going to be spent for. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Shields, any comments? No? All right. The joy of being chairman is I get to wrangle all these commissioners up here and obvious various opinions and try and come up with a consensus of 3 votes so that we can move forward. But discerning opinions, in my opinion, are fantastic on this board because it brings different spectrums of beliefs, different ideas to this board. And again, it's up to this board to come to some type of consensus on how we move forward. So I respect them all, and I enjoy serving with every individual up here. As Paul said, we're all friends when we leave this room. So with that being said, if there's no other comments, I'm going to call the question. I'm going to ask you to signify by saying aye in support of the budget and the budget ordinance, and signify by raising your right hand. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
I'll let the record reflect 3-2 vote. Commissioner Shields, Bell, and Tate voting for. Commissioner Higdon and Young voting nay. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to public comment period. We have one individual signed up, Mr. Peter Stern. Welcome, Mr. Stern, regarding election integrity.
Good evening, y'all. Good to see you again. Question came up over the last couple of weeks about jurisdiction of this board to entertain the proposed election integrity ordinance, and thought I would bring this to you so that you would have it. I think I was sufficiently covered everybody by sending you a copy of this 3-page extract from the North Carolina General Statutes. The black letter law shows clearly under 153A-12 that you have the right, power, duty, and function to execute those. I'm not going to read the whole thing because you all have a copy of it, but the high points are 153A-4, broad construction. It is the policy of the General Assembly. The counties of this state shall have adequate authority to exercise powers, rights, duties, functions, privileges, and immunities conferred upon them by law. To this end, the provisions of this chapter and of local acts shall be broadly construed, and grants of power shall be construed to include any power that are reasonably expedient to the exercise of that power. That's your subject matter jurisdiction. 153A-77 gives you the powers over all boards and entities within the county. 153A-121, general ordinance making power. This is a concrete and unavoidable decision on your part that you have ultimately the jurisdiction that I suggest you have. The county may by ordinance define, regulate, prohibit, or abate acts, omissions, or conditions detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of its citizens and the peace and dignity of the county, and may define and abate nuisances. Election fraud is all of the above. It strikes directly to the heart of the process of us electing you and all of the other officers. And while the state has put in the new constitutional amendment, I think it is inherent in everybody's best interest if the County Board of Commissioners will entertain the proposed ordinance that I gave you and make that active and in place within the county for here and later. The real statement of jurisdiction over the territory, or what's called venue jurisdiction, is 153A-124. The enumeration is not exclusive. The enumeration in this article or other portions of this chapter of specific powers to define, regulate, prohibit, or abate acts such as election fraud. Omissions or conditions is not exclusive, nor is it a limit of the general authority to adopt ordinances conferred on the counties. 153A-122 is, the title is territorial jurisdiction. I put it at the top of the page so you can see it. You have venue jurisdiction, you have subject matter jurisdiction, it is clearly called out, and I would ask that you entertain moving forward on the proposed ordinance and unanimously pass it to protect all of the members of this county, the citizens, and their right to vote. And I think it is inherent on your material trustee responsibility to do so, to make sure we're protected here forward. Any questions?
Mr. Stern, our county attorney has been advising us on this. I'm gonna ask him to respond to you with his thoughts on his reasoning. So,
Yeah, so I disagree with regard to the authority that the county has to enact voter registration laws. I think that the current issue is whether even the states have that authority, and I guess we'll probably find that out with regard to what happens between the feds and the state of Georgia and their election laws that they've passed. So I think that the first question is whether the states even have that right, and then the next question will be, what does the state do? So at the very first immediate level, I think that could come into play is at the state level, but right now I think it rests with the federal level. I don't think that the county has that authority, and if the county were to engage in that or enact legislation about what is required to be a registered voter within within Macon County, we will promptly be sued by a whole lot of people, and that will cost sufficiently more in defense and man hours than the Macon County budget would allow, and I don't think it would be prosperous.
Well, in response to you, the black letter law says it straight out. They have the authority to do anything to protect the peace and dignity of the county. It does not exclude anything. It is all-inclusive. And if we were to adopt the position of being afraid to be sued for anything that any county, city, state, or federal group would do, would be back in the time of King George, and this would not be a very pleasant place to live. So I would suggest that if you operate from a point of fear, you'll lose every time. If you operate from a point of strength, which is to protect and defend that flag, this country, and our voter integrity, it's a choice that you all have to make as the Board of Commissioners, but it is your duty to protect us. And I think the best way to protect us is to be sure that the constitutional amendment that the state passed is active in this county in case something happens somewhere else. My concern is the agenda of anybody who would go against protecting our voting rights, I don't think is a good faith argument. So anyway, you've got, my position is you've got the authority since you entered into it, Mr. Ridenour. If you think that this is not legal and binding, you might want to issue a written opinion to the Board of Commissioners saying why they should ignore the North Carolina general statutes. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Stern.
anyone else like to speak, public comment?
I'd just like to say to Mr. Stern, thank you for your service. We know each other, appreciate what you're standing for, and thank you very much.
No, your apology too. Under the advice of legal counsel, I'm trying to stop using my personal email. I'm not a techie. I'm switching over to maconNC.org. I got one of your emails today, but I didn't get the response from our legal counsel, so I wasn't just just trying to figure this email thing out.
I do it too every day.
But voter ID, I think, that was the backbone of your your resolution.
Exactly. There's too many instances, recorded instances, and I put a letter to the editor in the Macon County News, which recorded some of them. Even one person's vote being fraudulently suppressed is one too many.
I agree.
And what I understand, they got states passing laws right and left, like the state of Georgia, to suppress the very thing you're trying to stop. They're trying to suppress those votes, and other states are following. Many, Arizona is, North Carolina had something, frankly, gladly it got killed. But those states are suppressing the vote, and that's a whole different thing than voter ID. They're suppressing the vote of the people. So we just had the safest, they said the safest election in history. More people voted in history, and very little or no fraud was found. So I think we're in pretty good shape.
Well, have you had the opportunity to view any of the, if we're gonna go down that route?
No, I'm not gonna debate you here, sir.
Okay, I'm not gonna debate you either. I think there's plenty of evidence, and it's coming out on a frequent basis that view might not carry enough water. Anyway, I thank you all for the
Thank you.
opportunity to present this to y'all, and
Thank you, Mr. Stern.
Thank you, Mr. Stern. All right, any additions to the agenda?
Yes, sir, a couple, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Bill?
We have a resolution, you had this in our packet before, a resolution by the Macon County approving the memorandum of agreement between the state of North Carolina and the local government on proceeding relating to the settlement of the opioid litigation. Those questions that we had have been answered. We're proud to be able to work on this.
All right,
And,
let's add that under old business. As 10A, the opioid settlement.
And the other thing I have, Mr. Chairman, you have in front of you a letter from Karen Wallace. And I think she's writing this letter. Karen is here if you have any questions, so we'd like to put that on the agenda. The letter from the library board and Ms. Wallace concerning Nantahala Library.
Where would you like that, Commissioner Bill?
I guess that would be reports and presentations, I
Okay.
guess. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anything else, Mr. Manager?
No, sir.
Lori, good? Gentlemen?
We're good. I'll set it up, Jim.
All right. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda
Make a motion to
with
approve.
said changes? We got a motion by Commissioner Shields, second by Commissioner Young. All in favor? I'm saying aye. Reports and presentations, library letter from Karen Wallace. Y'all had a chance to review it?
So this is a letter from the Lice Library, and I apologize, as liaison, I was not able to attend that meeting. Karen and the chairman of the library board, and so what this talks to is the, we're back to the Nantahala Library, and this is a prioritization. Mr. Chairman, we have the letter here. I did ask Ms. Wallace to attend, to see if anybody had any questions. When we get to the prioritization, the county manager, we're just requesting that the library would be at a prioritization and money put and an amount, a maximum amount set aside. It's gonna take a little legwork, Mr. Manager, but I think that can be done. We just ask that be put on the, goes in the master plan 19, that was, it reflects in the letter. That was one of the top things before that building does literally fall around them. So we had asked that the prioritization, that's what this letter's all about. So Ms. Wallace, if you want to say a few things.
Yeah, so the building that we're currently occupying is deteriorating as we speak. There's leaks throughout the building from the floor. The walls have separated from the the flooring. We've had infestations of insects. And the building is literally going to deteriorate, and we will no longer be able to safely operate in that building. So our request is that you make the new facility for the Nantahala Community Library in conjunction with the community club, because the roots of the library in that community are solidly with the community club. And our operation there, serving that community, I think would be best served remaining adjacent to the school. We've had numerous input from students, teachers, that indicate their preference is that we remain on or adjacent to the school campus. We think we'll have the best opportunity to serve that community by remaining in the location, but with a new building to operate in. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
I've got some. Anybody else first? Aaron, congratulations on your increase tonight in the budget.
And I certainly appreciate that.
There have been very few and far between, if any, since I've been a commissioner in 10 years now. So,
Well, it was welcome news. I appreciate it.
tell me how many hours a week that the Nantahala
We're
Library is
open
open?
30 hours a week.
30 hours a week?
Mhm.
Okay. And the new building that we have purchased, you just don't think it'll work?
We think the best service to the community.
You
Do I think it
it'll
will work? If it has to work, we'll make that work. We don't think that's the best option.
Okay. Well, I'm not disagreeing with that necessarily, but I do disagree with the principle of, for 30 hours a week, to put the capital into a fully new building adjacent to the school, when I think there's a disagreement there about whether or not it should be on the school campus or not. So there seems to be a lot for and a lot against, so that.
I know there's been objection from the school board member who serves that community, and we've had a couple of meetings with her. And primarily saw some changes in her attitudes towards the value of keeping the library adjacent to the school. We have been on that property for 22 years, and we've not had any incidents. Yeah, and we'd be delighted to be open more than 30 hours a week should the operating budget become available.
Okay.
But we are indeed operating under the budget that the Macon County Commissioners feel is appropriate for the library, and we're happy to provide that service. We'd love to be open more hours.
Sure.
I got a question. Just want you to expound on just a little bit about the security at the other place that y'all will have a question about being there, and about the broadband service at the other place. I think those are things that you all are concerned about, security and broadband service at that other location. And that was one of the reasons you want to stay at the school location. Can you speak to that?
Sure. So currently, the White Oak Flats location with the Bateman building that's recently been purchased by the county in the Nantahala community has no fiber, no broadband service available. And one of the most important things that the library has been used for in the survey results and the focus groups that we've done with community members is to have broadband service available both through Wi-Fi and our fixed network. And estimates from Balsam West, who is our vendor for telecommunications, their estimates are about $300,000 to bring the fiber to that location. So that's a fairly costly endeavor. And we're concerned about whether or not that's going to jeopardize the project at White Oak Flats. So security, we're on the campus of the school right now, and there's usually somebody around. We staff with one individual most hours at that library, which is not the safest way to operate. We'd, again, love to operate differently, but with the budget that we have, we try to maximize the hours that we can be open. But if we move to a location where we're not co-located with someone else, with another entity, then the risk to our staff and to our property increases. We think that we're going to be in a position to be a high target for theft, and we think that that's a concern for both our staff and for our property. So in the event that we move to that location, we may reconsider the staffing that we currently have to allow for 2 individuals to be in the building when we're operating rather than 1, which will effectively cut our hours in half.
And 24/7, is that your, having security at that area 24/7? Is that a?
You know, we certainly would want to maintain security to protect the property even when there aren't people occupying the building.
And I think I heard you say at this time you feel we do have broadband service
We do.
at that, and you have security at the Nantahala School.
You know, being co-located with another entity certainly maximizes, you know, the safety of our staff and the visitors to that location.
Thank you for coming. We've talked about this a lot.
We certainly have.
Had the pleasure of serving on the library board as a liaison from this board for a year or 2, and like
Yes.
Ronnie, I didn't make a lot of meetings, but this library that you have there, and I appreciate the service you provide to Nantahala, Franklin, everybody. We butt heads occasionally on funding, but that's part of it. That thing's been falling down for a number of years. It didn't just start yesterday.
Indeed.
And when I would go to the meetings over there, pots on the floor, it's terrible. It needs to be finished. I think Ronnie said he'd been talking about this for, what, 10 or 14 years, Ronnie?
We've been,
And nothing ever happened. So
we have
kinda-
an opportunity now, though.
Well, we had an opportunity. When I was on the board, we realized the need and we tried to prioritize it. And the reason we tried to prioritize it, at the same time, we were doing a capital improvement plan countywide, which apparently you weren't a part of. And we paid about $200,000 for a capital improvement plan to be developed by some architects and professionals. And the Nantahala Library, new Nantahala Library was number 7 or 8 on that list. And there was some major funding capital improvements way before the library. Justice Center, what, $80, $100 million? And if we'd have went down we paid for that capital improvement plan, we knew that if we waited on that the library may never happen in Nantahala. So that's why we pushed for this other building. We've talked about this a lot, and we found a good building, and we thought a good site. Some like it, some don't like it. That's just the way things are done. There's no perfect solution. We don't make perfect solutions. So we closed today, I think, on the Bateman property, on the flats. When
Friday.
Friday.
closed on last Friday. And it's a great building to me, and it's a great location. I'm not a librarian. I'm not a member of the Nantahala community. I promise them people we will try to do something to improve the community. Nantahala gets ignored. So we've got this building in ownership now. It needs a lot of work. Whether or not it's for the library or just for the community building, that's not my decision to make. That's with a lot of input, and we've discussed this a whole lot. And in my opinion, the school location is not the perfect spot, but I'm not the final decision, the decision maker on this. So I think that this coming year, we need to decide what we're gonna do. Now, Derek is working on broadband. We're coming off of Wine Springs. We're trying to set some tires to beam broadband to the school. We're not gonna we can't pay $300,000. Maybe I shouldn't have mentioned that.
Well, we already have broadband at our current location.
It's a current location, but not at the Flats property.
Okay.
And
You
300
said at
million
the
is
school,
what
so.
Commissioner Gillespie got out of Balsam West.
And that's what Balsam West told us, because they're our vendor as well,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's the estimate.
$300,000 to clean it up. It might be a good investment in the future, but with all the broadband things that are happening right now, we didn't think that was a good investment. So we've got a building, a good building. I'm gonna push these guys. I'll have opposition from Mr. Bill, I'm sure, because he wants to go where it's at. But we have an opportunity to improve Nantahala Library now. I'm afraid if we fall back and say, hey, the library's not going to move, we're just gonna turn down building up, bingo, we gotta we gotta look at this capital improvement plan sometime. Is the library in Nantahala number 7, or we're gonna bump it up to number 1 against all of the professional advice that we got? So it's a tough decision we've gotta make here in the next few months, because I'm gonna be fighting for some money to make improvements to the building at Flats. We can't make improvements to the double-wide trailer down there. It's rotten, it's gone. So that's the decision we gotta make. Is the library willing to move, or if not, do we move forward with a community building at the Flats property and then try to figure out what to do with the library? I don't know. But at least it's in forefront right now.
And we certainly
And that-
appreciate that.
That's where you wanted it. So we got it there. It may not turn out like everybody wants it, but
Well,
we're working on it.
Well, we absolutely appreciate the attention this project is
And I
getting.
think our agreement with
Absolutely.
Fontana Regional Library is to provide a building.
The agreement is that the county will provide facility and operating funds to
Yes.
operate libraries.
But have nothing to do with the management of it.
Correct.
That's your expertise, and you do an excellent job. If it means increasing staff, change it, we may have to put a little more money in the long run. I think it'd be a little more money to put into another staff person. There's some options. We need to
We would
explore
certainly
those.
welcome that.
Pardon?
We would certainly welcome that.
Rather is to draw strict lines that we ain't gonna do this, or we're gonna do that or not. What are our options? What is economically the best thing for the community and for the county? So, thank you for the work you do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Common sense still works. Thank you so much.
Well, and our indication in this latest letter supports that, is that we are open to options. What we're doing is telling you, if you're asking us as library staff and library management, what we think the best option is. And that's what we're telling you, is we think we can best serve that community by staying adjacent to the school. It will save money in the long run by not having to bring new fiber to another location at a very high cost, and will be available to students and teachers in a much more meaningful way than we will to be 4 miles away. So we've never said that we would not relocate. We're leaving all options open, but if you're asking us as the library management who specializes in delivering library service, what our thoughts and preferences are, what we think will be the best way to serve those community members, it would be to stay adjacent to the school.
And either way we go is gonna be less than what the capital improvement plan projected, $4 million. Your eyes were as big as mine when we saw that number. We could build a nice library for $4 million. So either way, we're gonna save money.
I believe they estimated 10,000 square feet for a
Just move in
facility. And at no point were we consulted on
You were
that.
shocked as
And
I was.
we don't need 10,000 square feet at a cost of $4 million, which would probably be $6 million today. So, no, but we do agree that the building that we're in is deteriorated to the extent that their recommendation for demolition, we would agree with, but we need a new home first. I'm sure you don't want us to not have a library in Nantahala.
Thank you for having us.
And full disclosure here, I got a text from Representative Carl Gillespie this morning, and it says, please consider applying for state and federal broadband grants for the Nantahala community. I believe that they will definitely qualify. I guess that'll help out with the library and the community center. I spoke with the county manager about that earlier to make sure we're on top of that.
And we're also investigating the E-rate. E-rate has emergency connectivity funds that are becoming available. That's how we provide our telecommunications, is through the E-rate program, which is specifically for schools and libraries. And we receive about 75% discount on our telecommunications. The emergency funds are making additional funds available for installation of fiber and lighting the fiber. So we're investigating that as well.
We hedge a little bit on what Representative Gillespie said, is since we've moved to a Tier 3 county, it's very, very difficult. It's almost impossible to get a grant.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons we're looking at those
a
E-rate
blessing and a
emergency
curse.
funds. Yeah, so.
It's just, that's just a fact. It's hard. We're looked at last.
I would say finally that whatever decisions and discussions that you have, we really would appreciate being as involved as possible in those discussions, so that things like the capital improvement plan that recommended a 10,000 square foot library at a cost of $4 million that we didn't have any input in, that's the kind of activity that I don't think is beneficial to you all, to know really what would it take to have a decent library to serve the people of that community. So
I agree with
just
that.
to be as involved as we can. So thank you for your time and consideration on that project, and again, for our operating increase.
Thank you. All right, old business, opioid settlement.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner
And
Bill.
Mr. Council can speak to this also. This is a resolution. I'm sure everybody's had the opportunity to read the resolution that all counties in North Carolina, if not passed it, will pass it. There was a question about attorney fees that when we worked on this with the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners, that we had to get clarified a little bit. Our council has worked on that, as other folks across the state have. That has been resolved. So if everybody's, and you don't have to, the question was, Mr. Chairman, I don't want to get in the weeds here, but if the county had voted to become part of the litigation, which we did not, which we held on, we kept our powder dry so we could have options, which I think in the long run, it shows the best thing, because those counties who entered into litigation and paid that money, that's where the questions arose. So I think that's all been settled now, and because we didn't want to get X amount of dollars in for the opioid, to fight the opioid crisis and what it's cost us already, and then have to pay attorney fees, and you couldn't take it out of that money. So we got that clarified. So with that, Mr. Chairman, if everybody's had a chance to read the resolution, I'd make a motion that we pass the resolution and show Macon County in the I column.
We got a motion by Commissioner Bill regarding the opioid settlement resolution. Mr. Attorney, do you have, we got a motion on the floor. Can we get a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Shields. Discussion. Mr. Attorney, anything you would like to add?
Well, I would just add, I'm obviously new here, but I quickly learned that Commissioner Beal, when he was president of the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners, was actually way out in front on this. And at every meeting I attended, there were at least 3 different people that were singing Mr. Beal's praises. So anyway, that was just a really neat thing to jump into and realize that how much Commissioner Beal had done and led the way on this. And the highlights of it, just briefly, are that Macon County's share, now there's still not a guarantee this is gonna go through, and so it's still not guaranteed that it'll happen. But if it does, under this agreement, over the next 18 years, Macon County would get estimated $3,967,519. Now that's payable over 18 years, and it has to be, that money has to be put into a separate fund to be used for opioid remediation. So it has to be put into the special revenue fund. So though, if it happens, there will probably need to be a committee, or somebody will have to be in charge of determining how this money is going to be spent on this opioid remediation. And so,
Does the librarian and Hella qualify for that?
Takes a little paperwork. It'd take a little extra paperwork for that.
I mean, I don't know if you could build a classroom in the high school for that type of class or not, but anyway, that's the reason behind it. It is to be used for that, but again, that was encouraging to see to step in a new role and realize that Macon County had its own leader leading this. And the reason I say that is 80% of the money that's coming from this is going to counties, and that was done as a result of the county stepping up and the North Carolina Academy of County Commissioners stepping up and saying, look, the best expenditure of this money is going to be at the local level, not at the state level, but put it out there in the community where it can do the most good and not be wasted on bureaucracy. So I was pleased and proud to see that that's how the money's being spent, is mainly to the counties.
All right, we have a motion on the floor and a second regarding a resolution by the County of Macon approving the memorandum of agreement between the state of North Carolina and local governments on proceeds relating to the settlement of opioid litigation. If there's no further questions, I'll signify by saying aye. Aye. Unanimous, Mr. Decker. Thank you both. Thank you
Just
for your
one final
leadership
point on
Commissioner
that.
Bill, yeah.
We did get the state to drop from 24% to 15% off the top. So we thought that was a real win. You know, usually they won't tell us how to spend it.
Mr. Attorney, can we approve all 3 fireworks permits with one motion, or do we need to take them each individually? Sorry, I should have asked you that prior. We can take them individually if need be.
Well, just to err on the side of caution, because I don't know the answer.
Okay. Good answer.
Let's do them separately.
Can we get a motion to approve the Nana Hala Volunteer Fire and Rescue
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
fireworks permit?
Second, Paul.
We've got a motion by Commissioner Higgins, second by Commissioner Shields. All in favor?
Aye.
We get a motion for the Town of Franklin
So
fireworks
moved, Mr.
permit.
Chairman.
Motion by Commissioner Bill, second by Commissioner Young. All in favor?
Aye.
Highlands Chamber of Commerce fireworks permit.
Motion by you, Mr. Chairman, I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Tate, second by Commissioner Bill. All in favor? Aye. All right. Item 11B, resolution for Cowee School Arts and Heritage Center designation as an arts agency and authorization to apply for grants as Macon County's local arts agency. Mr. Stacy Guthrie. Welcome, Stacy.
Thank you.
Welcome, Mr. Cuppers.
I'm just window dressing.
Are you? Okay.
Mr. Cuppers, our new chair out at Cowee School, Cowee School Board.
Congratulations.
Pays well.
What I passed around there is a draft of a resolution that would enable Cowee School to apply for some grant funds from the National Endowment for the Arts. They're going to release $135 million this month. It's a pretty quick turnaround time for us. And out of that $135 million, which art organizations and art councils are eligible to apply, some of that money is programmatic money where we could apply individually, and other arts organizations in Macon County can apply individually for art grants between $10,000 and $100,000. There's another pot of that money that's up to $150,000. It's a pot of money that we could subgrant out at Cowee School, and we've got some good experience with that in the last 3 years. We've been subgranting grant funds from the North Carolina Arts Council to individual artists, to the other arts organizations in Macon County and in 5 other counties here in the region. And so what's before you is a resolution that would designate the Cowee School Arts and Heritage Center as the local arts agency to be able to apply for these funds on behalf of Macon County. And if we were to do that, for example, last year we received some COVID funding that we subgranted to the Macon County Arts Council and to the Bascom, because we've been designated by the North Carolina Arts Council to perform that function for them. And so what we're asking for is the designation by Macon County government, so we can go after that pot of money. And the only part of that is we would really need a quick turnaround because we have to get the application in by the end of June.
Mr. Chairman, as liaison down to Heritage Center at Cowee School, this is just another step in the advancement of the Cowee School Heritage Center, and they've had great leadership, continue to have great leadership. So with that, I think this is a great step, because it gives you the recognition to do that, and you wouldn't do that without the Bascom and the Arts Council and everybody else in the county. So I think that's a big step for the Heritage Center, and I'd gladly make a motion that we adopt this resolution as presented.
Motion by Commissioner Bill, second by Commissioner Shields. Any questions?
The only question I have is, as Mr. Attorney reviewed this, is there any adverse?
That I'm not aware of.
But, no, I like it, as long as
Commissioner Bill mentioned the Bascom and the Macon County Arts Council. Are either one of those entities going to have an issue with this designation? Would it take anything away from them?
It won't. So there's two separate pots of money, the programmatic money that's going to be available. Those two entities would still be able to apply for those funds.
All right, and all in favor, signify by saying aye, pending the county attorney's approval.
Aye.
For review. Aye.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, I
Sure, yes, sir.
apologize.
Can't help
There's
you,
two
Joe.
things I wanted, I couldn't help it. First of all, I want to thank you for the continued support out of Cowie School. It's been great. It's been great. You probably have noticed we're asking for less and less each time, and I think that's important. The other thing I wanted to do is point out two of your departments that have been particularly helpful, and I wanted to say it with the manager sitting here. Seth Adams out at Recreation and your maintenance department have just been phenomenal. If you don't believe it, just ride by the school sometime, take a look at the field. And if you've done it in about 5 years ago and you look at it now, it's night and day. I mean, they're mowing that field regularity. It looks great. We just had the biggest outdoor concert we've had there at the school ever. Last 2 weeks ago, terrific crowd. We're going to try to do more of them outside because it just works better. We can get more people in there, make more money. So I just wanted, because I just took over. I've been there for about a month now, and it's my second time around. You'd think you'd learn something, Paul, but you never do. But I just wanted to personally thank this board, because without you, we don't make it, okay? We're doing our best to become our own little entity. I mean, where we don't have to ask you for anything except the maintenance on your building. We're getting there. This thing you just gave us will help us get there, and the well that you're going to dig will help us get the kitchen certified and get that stream coming in too. So thank you very much, and I'll get off the stage. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Coach Cupper's held down this seat for a few years, Commissioner Young. It's a good seat.
Still warm.
All right, approval of NCACC voting delegate, Mr. Rowland.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, you'll see in your packet here, the NCACC Annual Conference is approaching in Wilmington, and we will designate a voting delegate at this time. So with that, we'll entertain a motion for.
Anyone planning on being there?
I will be there.
All right.
Motion, Mr. Bill.
Got a motion by Commissioner Shields for Commissioner Bill to be the voting delegate. I'll second that motion. Any questions? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All right, consent agenda, no additions, Lori, we're good?
We're good.
All right. We'll get a motion to approve the consent agenda unless there's a commissioner that would like an item removed for further discussion.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion by Commissioner Higdon,
Second.
second by Commissioner Shields, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, I don't believe there are any appointments to my knowledge. I don't think there's a reason for a closed session to my knowledge.
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second that motion by Commissioner Higdon. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Every year.
Lori, when do you get